So there's a lot of noise about AI, but time's too tight for more promises. So let's talk about results. At IBM, we work with our employees to integrate technology right into the systems they need. Now, a global workforce of 300,000 can use AI to field their HR questions, resolving 94% of common questions. Not noise, proof of how we can help companies get smarter by putting AI where it actually pays off, deep in the work that moves the business. Let's create smarter business. IBM.
Everyone has been there. Your team's feedback is scattered across emails, chats, and sticky notes. It's a mess. But PDF Spaces and Adobe Acrobat gives you one collaborative workspace to streamline every file and comment. So, if you need 6 departments to finally agree on a proposal, do that with Acrobat. Need to turn a mountain of feedback into one plan of action? Do that with Acrobat. Want to stop searching for files and finally get everyone on the same page? Do that, do that, do that with Acrobat. Learn more at adobe.com/do that with Acrobat.
With Bali from iShares, you get access to both monthly income and growth potential in one simple ETF. It's the best of both worlds. Discover Bali, iShares Large Cap Premium Income Active ETF. iShares, the market is yours. Visit www.ishares.com to view a prospectus for investment objectives, risks, fees, expenses, and other information that you should read and consider carefully before investing. Risks include principal loss and the use of derivatives, which could increase risks and volatility. Monthly income is not guaranteed. Prepared by BlackRock Investments, LLC.
Welcome to Inside Active, a podcast about active managers that goes beyond soundbites and headlines and looks deeper into their processes, challenges, and philosophies in security selection. I'm David Cohne. I lead mutual fund and active research at Bloomberg Intelligence. Today, my co-host is Athanasios Psarofagis, ETF analyst at Bloomberg Intelligence. Ethan, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on.
So we were recording live from the Exchange Conference in Las Vegas, hosted by VettaFi. So I do want to thank Todd Rosenbluth and the folks at VettaFi for having us. We are joined by our old friend Todd Sohn, Chief ETF Strategist at Strategas Asset Management. Todd, thanks to you for joining us today on this sunny day.
Hey, it's great to be with you guys.
So this episode is going to be a little different than our typical Inside Active. I'm going to actually ask you both questions as opposed to Ethan and I kind of going back and forth. And so I want to kind of get the current state of active ETFs, and then at the end, we'll do a lightning round. So Todd, let's start with you. What flow has surprised you most this year?
So to start an active, you're at 12% of assets and 40% of year-to-date flows. I don't know if any category specifically surprises me, but it's the balance, right? Year-to-date or rather trailing year. 420 billion in equity, 388 to fixed income, and 207 billion to option income. Right? So this is everywhere. This is not just cornered into one area. I think that's the breadth of it is really impressive.
What do you think, Ethan?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with Todd. Nothing really sticks out. So like you're seeing flows into international, emerging markets, VXU, no, that's passive, but like AVEM has taken in quite a bit of money, some of the option overlays. So honestly, I don't think there's anything that shocking and active. I know that's not a debate with Todd, but I kind of agree there. There's not really anything that stands out.
What about like anything that should be getting flows but isn't?
Oh,
I would love to see more to active small cap because small cap indices are flawed, right? Russell 2000, which I think we all refer to, was it 40% unprofitable? Zombie companies galore. And yeah, there's moments in market regimes where you actually want Russell 2000 exposure, right? You want to go out and buy junk. But as the cycles mature and the credit backdrop changes, I like having an active manager to be at the wheel to find those companies that eventually grow up and graduate to the bigger indices. So I would like to see more activity down there.
Okay. So I'll start again, Todd. What's overhyped right now in active ETFs?
It's overhyped. Ooh, we're sitting in front of a live batch of people here at Exchange, which they're sure, so I might get in trouble. Yeah. So there's two areas, right? I think it's derivative-based stuff, right? I think it's fascinating that in the last 3 years, option income ETFs have taken in more than dividend ETFs. So the way investors are getting income has changed. Does that mean it's overhyped? I think certain segments of it are, right? Single stock income ETFs, I think, are overhyped, and there's a lot of issues in terms of the tax front. And then, I don't know, buffers. I don't know. Buffers, depending on who I'm talking to, strike a chord. Some people love them, and some people are like, I don't get it. And they're an $80 billion category, and they're a little complex for me, and I'm wondering how much more ceiling there is. I get it that they're coming from the structured outcome space, and that's a big area. But I don't know. I think there's so many other alternatives now in the income space and the downside protection space that I wonder if maybe that's the overhype area.
Ethan?
Yeah, I
Right?
think with overhype, I know the leverage stuff that counts as active, that for sure, because you see all these filings coming out. It's companies that already have an ETF on them, so I don't really get what the advantage is there. Like, why are you launching another 2x Tesla ETF that exists out there already? So unless you're literally competing on price point, I don't even know if that's even a big advantage in something like single stock leverage. Buffers too, I think, are a little bit overhyped. Not the strategy, but the number of products that are out there. That's definitely it's getting really kind of saturated product wise.
The buffers are the minions of the ETF industry. The little yellow guys, right? There's like 1,000 of them, and there's no difference.
So this is more marketing than flows, you think, in terms of...
It's such an easy message for an advisor, and I get it, right? It makes sense, especially if you're an older generation, you're close to retirement, you're scared of an 87 moment, right? Or you're about to buy a house or a boat. You want the downside protection.
Yeah, I think I agree with Todd. They're like really easy to sell, kind of taking the place of low vol, maybe even eating some of your bond exposure. So, like you said, at least you know your outcome, right? There's no surprises. And whether or not they're efficient, that's like another debate. But I think that I get why investors want to use these.
So Ethan, I'm going to start with you on this one. Are we in a golden age of active ETFs or just a hot streak?
Oh, man. I mean, this is great. We do have more active ETFs than passive. Again, that includes all the definitions. It's not just like alpha seeking stock pickers. Probably, I think golden age. I think when, with the ETF rule, making active more conducive and easier, cutting costs down, not having to pay an index provider, things like that, I think it's definitely going to be, opening the door for more active. Then you have share classes coming too. Again, another big floodgate opening for active. Golden age assets and flows, I don't know, but products probably. Like this is probably the start of just a massive influx of more active.
Todd, same question.
I think it's got to be golden age, right? And the backdrop for me, right? I agree with everything Ethan's saying. You got share classes, you have conversions. Everyone is coming into the pool now because they realize that's where the flows are going, right? ETFs treat money better, largely speaking, than mutual funds. But for our angle of this is we are in an environment where, and I know everyone probably doesn't like this topic, 10 stocks make up 40% of the S&P 500. If you own large cap blend, if you own large cap growth, if you own quality, momentum, you own the same stocks, right? So this is where active, and depending on if it's large cap, mid cap, small cap, international, right? Having a hand at the wheel to at least differentiate or diversify portfolios. I think that's so important. And I as much as the concentration might be coming off a boil, it could come right back in a given environment. So I don't see it slowing down. This is literally, everyone is in the pool here in Vegas.
But if the regime changes, like say we see less volatility, could the momentum fade a little bit?
You probably see it slow down. Like I wonder if that 40% of year-to-date flows number goes down to 30%. But I think you have I wonder if there's a floor now in the 25% area, right? Whatever the number is. I think there's a floor on flows, and we just have to figure out what the ceiling is.
Okay, so Todd, I'm going to start with you on this. What active ETF changed the game? Is it ARK, JEPI?
That's a good question.
It has to be ARK because they were the first one to say, hey, we're going to show you, we're literally going to email you our trades every single night. We're going to be transparent about our holdings. And they proved you that an active equity fund can work in the ETF manner. And this was before the ETF rule and all that. I think it has to be them. And then once JP Morgan had premium income come out, they showed that, hey, derivatives in ETFs in an active manner are also going to be important because people want income. They want downside protection. They want leverage, all of that. So that would be the second leg of the changing the game.
What's your pick, Ethan?
I mean, ARK is a good one. That's probably the best pick, honestly, because then it kind of completely dismantled like semi non-transparent ETFs and all that model then just became like obsolete when Kathy was out there putting her holdings daily. But I'd say if I had pick another one, I think that whole buffer category, um, not changed the game, but it created a brand new category, which I think is so rare to see in ETFs. Like there's very little white space. So to have a new product come out and literally create a brand new category that became really successful, I think that was a big game changer. And I think that just feeds into what Todd was saying, is just the ability to put derivatives in ETFs. I think that was definitely a big, whether you want to define that as active, but that definitely changed the game a lot. Okay.
Ethan, if you were CEO of an issuer, and you could launch your own active ETF tomorrow, what would it be?
That's a scary thought.
Yeah. 3x, no. Okay, just seeing where the market is now and when there's white space, I'd probably try to crack the private equity. Like, I'd probably work on something there just because, like we mentioned, there's more active ETFs than passive. I don't want to go into buffers. It's probably really competitive, option overlay and covered calls. So I think private equity, if you can get a jump on it and get in to that category pretty early, I think that could be a game-changing ETF, like we mentioned, similar to ARK. But so I'd probably be trying to focus in that space.
Would you launch, Todd?
If it's already launched, is that a problem? I put on my Strategas hat.
You're just going to copy somebody?
Strategas Macro Thematic Opportunities ETF, thematic diversification, right? That's what I would launch. It is live, not to be the promo here, but it takes thematic funds and it puts them all in one fund together rather than taking the single theme risk. So that's what I would launch, even though it is live. I stand by that. If Strategas did not exist, what would I do? I would do something in the derivative space because there's still a lot of opportunity there, and it fits both channels, retail and institutional, right? Retail loves income. The institutions want how to hedge, how to protect.
Okay. Do you think active ETFs are competing more with mutual funds or passive ETFs right now? Ethan, you go first.
Oh, man. I think both. Yeah, I think it's still the same argument, like active versus passive, but now it's just all being moved over into the ETF. So yeah, I think it's competing with everyone. Passive for sure. I don't know if it's a head-to-head competition. I think it's just evolving to live alongside passive, right? So a lot of the active stuff we were talking about, buffers or leverage single stock, that's not going to be a core position, right? Sort of like a satellite position alongside passive. So I think that's how they're sort of learning to live. And then, yeah, it's just, this is all just the money moving over from mutual funds into ETFs. So you're kind of competing with everything. And then also, I think the thing to mention is obviously ETF trading is so high. Even though it's a passive vehicle, right? People are just constantly trading these passive ETFs. I think in a way that's active too, right? So they're also maybe kind of competing on that level. But yeah, I think in ETFs, everyone's competing with everyone all the time.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Todd? I agree with Athanasios. I wonder, I do lean though towards the passive, right? Because we know, largely speaking, all the money that's coming out of active equity mutual funds is probably going to passive. It's been a function of 0% interest rates in the last decade and some other market mechanics. So now you have to negotiate with an advisor. You have your core, but you should consider this active as either a replacement or a complement. Like you need to get the dollars away from the core now, which is largely passive, into active. So for me, I think if I'm really choosing one, it's the passive index funds because they're too good of a deal.
Okay. But if we single out just, if we've got traditional active, which is security selection, versus kind of the new active, which is defined outcome, leverage, and things like that, you don't think there's any movement with the traditional like styles and the active ETFs kind of taken away from passive at all, or just more of a complement?
I think it varies on where you are.
Okay.
Honestly, like we could do a tour around this conference, and some people say, well, I don't like passive because it's skewed. Some people are like, I don't like active because sometimes I don't trust the managers,
I think with a lot of the stuff that's come out, it's sort of like switched. Before it was like we mentioned Kathy Wood, you invest in a fund, you invest in the stock pickers, right? But I think a lot of the ETFs have made you the stock picker. So you're sort of like replacing a lot of that traditional stock picking and you're doing it yourself. So that's why I think some of the successful active stuff is not that stock picking security selection active. It's the derivatives, it's the leverage, it's kind of that stuff. So I think in a way that's you've stopped subbing out that stock picking ability and just investors are doing it themselves.
But on the fixed income side, you still see your role.
Fixed income active. It's interesting because you follow mutual fund flows closely. Like active fixed income mutual funds are still doing all right.
Yep.
And yet there is a massive amount of active fixed income ETFs, and they're doing well too. But it seems like both sides of the industry are winning there.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a little unique.
Yeah, that's a good point. They've been pretty safe, right? Bond managers in mutual funds from the, competitive, like intrusion of ETFs for sure.
What part of the active ETF story hasn't played out yet? Todd, you can answer this person.
Ooh, what part has not played out yet? I wonder if it's fixed income, maybe. So let's see. In ETFs, active fixed income, I think is about 23% of assets. I mean, that's still pretty good, but I just wonder if you're in this different rate regime than we've been in the last 40 years, that's going to be where the opportunity is. Now, tricky part is I don't know what's going on with private credit. What implications does that have? Maybe having an active manager might make sense then. But I think there's more to go there. It's just a matter of where is it coming from? Because if it's not coming from mutual funds, it's got to be sourced from another area too, right? But there's so many incredible exposures now in active fixed income. The due diligence process is going to be really competitive. But I think that's one area. I'm sure if James Safer were here, he'd say crypto, by the way.
Don't remind him.
What do you think, Ethan?
Yeah, I think bonds is a good point because they were doing active bond ETFs for a while, right? Like some of their ones have been really, really early on products. I don't know if some of it's just because tax-wise, it's not a huge advantage to be in an ETF versus a mutual fund on the bond side, just because how income gets distributed and whatnot. But could also be what Todd was mentioning, just kind of the rate regime. So that area for sure, I think probably could be developed. I think also issuers kind of pivoted away from focusing on bond ETFs for a while, just because buffers had come online and people kind of got annoyed with the ag after 2022. So they're like, hey, I'm not going to be focusing on bonds as much. So there's that. And then, maybe like alts, like, I know hedge funds, people weren't buying all ETFs like, in huge numbers. But I think if someone can maybe figure out a decent alt space, if you want to put crypto in that profile, fine. But sort of, how can we get like true alts in an ETF could be an interesting kind of untap.
I like the managed futures. I'm a little bit of a junkie with that. I mean, I have a CMT, right? I like trends. I don't know how big the managed futures space is in SMA and mutual funds, but it's tiny in ETFs. And depending on the environment, like right now, managed futures have outperformed the Qs since October. Right? There's a place for them. So I have to imagine that's another big, huge area of opportunity going forward.
So when you think about it as a baseball game, and you take active ETFs, all encompassing, whether it's traditional or the newer styles, what inning are we in?
Oh man,
second, third. It's early.
Okay.
I mean, I think it's super early. All encompassing, super early. Like,
I was gonna go a little further, like 4, maybe, but we're not at like the 7th inning stretch yet or anything like that. But I was gonna, but there's gonna be a lot. It'll be interesting to see how much, like, we can always launch products, right? But how that asset transfer works and how successful they're gonna be in raising assets. I think that is still, we have to see kind of more of that. But I think you said it's 12% of assets, and what was the percentage of flows?
40%.
Oh, so that's pretty good. Yeah. And obviously every year the total flows keep going up, right? So it's 40% of a growing number. But again, is that enough to justify that more than half the market is active ETFs? So, so I still agree that we're early on, but I don't know if whether the market, kind of induces this, but do we see like rationalization a little bit too, right? Because we did a panel yesterday. There was 1,000+ ETF launches. I mean, there was quite a bit of closures, but nothing like the ratio that we've seen for launches. So at some point, some of these might need to close, right? It's just, I don't know how many can actually be like supported.
Okay. So I got one last question before we hit the lightning round. Todd, you can do this one first. What actually makes an active ETF stick?
Differentiated portfolio or a differentiated solution. Like, why am I offering it, right? Okay, if it's stocks, I just need something that's uncorrelated or just different than the Mag 7. Or I'm offering a solution like a buffer or option income or tail risk, right? Hedged equity. That to me is what makes it stick. If it's just kind of run-of-the-mill chasing performance, which you can get in active thematic funds, single themes, that is, you're going to get slippage when the time runs out.
Okay.
I think that was a good answer, but I'm going to say performance. I think Kathy is why that product was so successful. But to Todd's point, you can't control investor timing, right? So yeah, she had the good performance run. People piled in later. The performance sort of, didn't do as well. So maybe your experience with it might not be as great, but the reason she got really popular was because of performance. But then to his point about buffers, that's not a performance story, right? That's a solution story. So I think Kathy also had a solution story too. She was creating a new category like innovators, right? Like that didn't really exist before Kathy. So if you're going to be like a stock picking one, it's got to be performance. If you're going to be something like derivatives or options overlay, it has to be some sort of, like Todd mentioned, some solution based thing.
Okay. So it's time for our lightning round. Oh, Todd, you're our guest, so you're going to go first.
Okay.
And actually, the first question you touched upon a little bit. And so the question is, active small cap ETFs, are you bullish or cautious?
Super bullish. All in.
Okay, great. What do you think, Ethan?
Yeah, bullish.
Yeah.
Was this like performance, you think? Or is it like, am I allowed to ask questions?
Yeah. You just can't hedge yourself. You ask questions.
Say, hedge. Middle. I guess both on maybe performance and product that can potentially come to market. But yeah, but either way, bullish.
Okay. The next one is buffer ETFs. Is it crowded or is there still runway left?
Crowded. More crowded than a Vegas nightclub on Saturday night.
What do you think, Ethan?
Yeah, this is a kind of a dull lightning round because I agree too. This is it's crowded.
Ethan and I are cut from the same cloth for those listening. Very much so.
Yeah, we can align on a lot of stuff. But I'd say on the crowded, product-wise, yes, assets probably can grow a little bit more there, but I think there's definitely a lot of product.
I know this is lightning round. I'll add one more thing to that. You have not seen buffers from Vanguard. Maybe you never will, but I'm just throwing it out there. Let's just
Never thought of that.
I'm just throwing it out there. Right? You got some people from iShares there, and they launch buffers.
Okay.
That's a good food for thought.
So, I think we've all seen the robot out on the floor. So the next question is AI related. When you think of AI-driven active strategies, is that really provide a real edge right now, or is it just kind of marketing?
We've had that Watson ETF for almost a decade. I don't know the performance off the top of my head, but I don't think it's been magnificent. I wonder if it's going to be like certain models would do better than others, and it's going to be dependent on the guy who writes the models, like some crazy PhD who's smarter than all three of us combined. I'm probably more lukewarm on it, though. Okay, I like the human touch.
Okay, what do you think, Ethan?
Why didn't you have the robot on the podcast? Doesn't it talk?
Yeah.
I'll
be hosting pretty soon.
I think it's overhyped. I'll take the under. I don't think it's gonna be able to provide you like a meaningful edge in like outperformance.
Okay. And the last question, I already know our boss, Eric Baltunas' answer to this, but I'm curious on both of yours.
Is it crypto?
Nope. Direct indexing versus active ETF. A complement or a competitor?
Complement. High net worth complement.
Okay.
Yeah, complement.
The retail Reddit guy, person, trader, they don't need that. They want to know where the next big move is coming from and how to play it through leverage in an ETF. Okay, that's just my thing. I think directing is great for certain individuals, not for the mass.
Yeah, I agree. I think, and Eric has brought this up before too, and obviously you see like there are 5,000 ETFs, right? We mentioned like if you can't find what you need in that 5,000, I feel like it covers a lot of strategies. While it's not like exactly custom, you can pretty much do almost everything, right? And it's too good of a deal. ETFs are just efficient. They're cheap. I just think it's really, really hard to come in and dislodge that. So
What's he say? He says he does the Jerry Maguire, right? Show me the money. That's what he does with that. Or show me the flows, something like that. Shout out to Eric.
Great. Well, this was a lot of fun. Todd, thank you for being our guest.
My pleasure. I enjoyed this very much.
And Nathan, thank you for being my co-host for this one.
Yeah, I'm glad I just agreed with everything Todd said, basically.
And I also want to thank our listeners. If you liked the episode, please share, subscribe, and leave a review. If you'd like to see more of our research on the Bloomberg Terminal, go to BI Fund Go for mutual fund and active research, and go to BI ETF Go for ETF research. Until our next episode, this is David Cohne with Inside Active.
For many men, mental health challenges aren't recognized until they've already taken a toll. Work pressure, financial stress, changing relationships, and traditional expectations around masculinity can quietly wear men down, often without clear warning signs. In Season 3 of The Visibility Gap, Dr. Guy Winch and his guests explore how these pressures show up, how to spot them earlier, and how men can access meaningful support. Listen to the new season of The Visibility Gap, a podcast presented by Cigna Healthcare.
With Bali from iShares, you get access to both monthly income and growth potential in one simple ETF. It's the best of both worlds. Discover Bali, iShares Large Cap Premium Income Active ETF. iShares, the market is yours. Visit www.ishares.com to view a prospectus for investment objectives, risks, fees, expenses, and other information that you should read and consider carefully before investing. Risks include principal loss and the use of derivatives, which could increase risks and volatility. Monthly income is not guaranteed. Prepared by BlackRock Investments, LLC.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.